Have you ever started a restoration project and started doing some research and tried to figure out which body panel brand is the best to use? There's so many out there. A lot of the good names you hear all the time: AMD, Goodmark, Dynacorn, OER. I could probably go on for hours, all the different names. Now, probably only 2 or 3 people actually stamp these things, but there are some differences. But trying to do some research, not a whole lot of information online. So if you want to find out which one I think is the best, stay tuned. What I have here behind me, the 68 Firebird convertible. I need some love. My 69 Firebird coupe I've had for about 20 some years, a high school car. I worked on it. Did a lot of sheet metal work to it. And over yonder in the other bay is the 69 Trans Am convertible named the Trans Maraudo. All 3 of these cars, what they have in common, done a lot of sheet metal work on them. So I have a lot of experience with at least first gen F body sheet metal. And I use different manufacturers. So originally when I started doing my homework on these, there wasn't a whole lot of research available as for saying, here's the best, like side-by-side comparison. So you'd ask a few people on some forums, you'd ask some people who put some cars together, and they all had their opinion of which one was the best. Now, of course, everyone has pros and cons, but overall, I'm gonna tell you which one I like the most of them is the AMD products. Anytime I've used that product, typically it's fit the best, least amount of trimming, least amount of modifications, and it looks really nice, and typically slightly heavier gauge or closer to original, and particularly the rear frame rails on these cars. I use the OER brand ones on the convertible that I built a few years back, and they fit okay, had a twist and bend, but they did finally go, but I thought that was kind of normal. My coupe here behind me, I use the AMD ones. First fit right up, very little tweaking or fitment to get them to fit and line up to the measurements to get it correct. So in this case, the AMD frame rails were better. I have a floor pan here, you can see behind my head. It's going to go in this convertible. I ordered the AMD this time, did some looking at it, and I'll tell you what, there's some differences that I really like, and I'm about to show you. And even on the coupe here behind me, I use the AMD full quarter panels. Fit phenomenally, very little tweaking again. Fit real nice, the door jamb, door gaps are real nice. I use the OER brand on my Firebird convertible. They came out okay, had to do some twisting and some stretching. So I guess of the big panels that I've used, the AMD product is one overall. But I'm gonna show you on this floor pan some of the differences and may make you a convinced person too that AMD is the best way to go. All right, well, first off, I'll start at the rear here. It's pretty simple right in front of you. You'll see this reinforcement plate they actually added to the floor. The factory did that around where the seatbelt mounts for extra reinforcement in case you're ever into a collision. Not that I plan on crashing this car, but let's just say you did. I got my little kids in the back seat. Well, I want them to be as safe as possible. On the other brands, that reinforcement panel is left off of them. They do not put them on there. So I actually went to the trouble of drilling them out, changing them over, and pulling these seatbelt anchors out and starting over. Well, AMD, they've already done that for you, make your life a little bit easier. The other thing is right off here, the drive shaft tunnel has a radius to it. As you can see, it's not straight across the body line and body line. I'll show you on the original floor pan over here. That's how it's configured. Now, what's that really mean? Well, there's actually a bump stop bracket that mounts in that radius for to mount a rubber piece that in case the differential would come in contact with the floor pan, it bounces off that. Well, the original had it where it fit up in there in the radius. So if you install the different brand floor pans, you have to modify or omit that bracket. Well, not the end of the world, but little details like that tells that AMD's done their homework and trying to get the things to fit back to original. So there's some proof that they do a little better job. Now, I'd say the only thing I didn't like about the AMD panel is right about here on the bottom side is supposed to be a little bracket for mounting brake lines, fuel lines, one on each side. Well, that little bracket, all it is a tab to put a bolt through to mount the fuel lines to the floor pan. That is missing, unfortunately. Now, the other thing I do like about AMD is the coupe. There's a panel that goes on here on convertibles that reinforces this here. It is not installed, but included in the box of parts. So if you're doing a convertible restoration to original, that panel needs to be put back in. I am putting in a convertible, I'm going to use it, but this is correct for a coupe. The other manufacturers already weld that panel in. Small detail, not really the end of the world. On my coupe here in front of me, I'll show you. That panel is welded in. It's underneath some lizard skin coating. I've already finished this one up, but it's right here and it's welded in. I said not the end of the world, but coupes technically didn't have that piece. And if you look at the rear floor pan, straight across that body line. Well, that makes it where that thing doesn't fit on the inside. So this is an OER brand floor pan. Now, it's not bad. It fit, worked all when it's all said and done. But if you look at the original here, now, this is the convertible, but it has the radius here and the height in the floor pan. So this is a small detail, and there's the convertible bracing, but this car is going to need some love. So if you want to see this thing come back to life and watch it put that floor pan and fix some rocker panels, hey, subscribe and check it out. But those are some little details that I wanted to share with you. Now, all that said and done doesn't mean that AMD is the best panel in the whole wide world, but it just tells them they spend a little more time or a little more attention to detail. Like I said, all the fitment and all the pieces I've installed, they've worked the best overall. The other brands are still good products. I don't think they're garbage. I can't say there's one I said absolutely worthless and I hated it, but just overall the AMD stuff typically works better. I'm not getting paid to say any of this, but I'm hoping maybe to save you some grief or build some confidence in what you should purchase for your project, because you get into these cars, I don't want them to become overwhelming for you, because I like to see things back on the road for future generations to enjoy. I absolutely love them. I want to share that love with you and hopefully get you inspired to get out there and have some fun and do this stuff. And again, I said, if you want to watch someone put some floor pans in a garage, in a 2-car garage, show you that it can be done, subscribe, check it out. Follow along as this thing comes back to life and turns into a good driver. And there's a chance that I might have acquired another Firebird, but don't tell the boss that one yet. But someone dropped me a link earlier. I was like, ooh, man, look at this one. And kind of find out it was an autumn bronze metallic car also. Anyway, it's just kind of a cool color. I thought it was kind of neat. Anyway, I want to talk your ear off. I just want to share with you what I thought was the best. I couldn't find a whole lot a few years back on which one, like a side-by-side comparison. I wanted to give you some input, some advice, or show you side-by-side and share my experience with you, hoping that way you can make an informed decision. So it's going to wrap it up for this time around. Again, if you like what you see, please subscribe, help me out, hit the old like button. Or if you've had some experience installing some panels, maybe AMD that didn't work, drop it in the old comments down there. I'd like to read those and check it out. But of course, we appreciate you following and your time, and we'll see you next time.